Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome back to our weekly Lunch and Learn. Today, we're talking about what you need to know and what you need to do in order to create permanent, lasting change in any area of your life. And I think this is a huge topic. This is something that's so powerful, especially in these times of change. Right now, we have one thing that is constant in the universe is that everything will change. Nothing is ever in one state. It's always transforming from one state to another. In terms of what we do, how we progress in life, there is always going to be change that is happening in our lives. That is the one thing that we can consistently predict. Things never stay the same. And when it comes to working with this, you can choose to live life by design instead of by default. And you can start to learn the rules so that you can really work with them and make things easier and more effortless than they ever have been before. Most people don't know the rules and they get caught up in the emotion or circumstance that surrounds it. And so that's what we're talking about today. We're going to really look at some of the rules and the fundamental requirements that you need in order to create that lasting change. And not just change temporarily, but I'm talking about lasting, permanent change. So let me know where you're coming in from. Let me know where you're coming in from. If you're tuning in by replay, type in hashtag replay in the chat. If it's your first time here, type in first time in the chat. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Larissa McCooch. I'm an author, speaker, and CEO of Larissa McCooch Coaching, and I lead highly successful, motivated women through mental barriers and into unstoppable confidence, authenticity, and empowered lives. And I want to just paint the picture here, because I think this picture is something that many of us are either familiar with, having gone through, or we've known someone that's been in this situation. And I want to use the example of a diet. And maybe you've gone on a diet and you felt so great while it lasted. You're not eating sugar, you're eating healthy, nutritious food. You're drinking a lot of water. Right? This is water. It's so key for me. And all of a sudden something happens in your life and you fall off the wagon. You're like, oh my goodness, I had a busy week at work and I couldn't get around to prepping the food. So you go buy some takeout and then you fall off the wagon. And you told yourself that you can get back. And so you did. You felt great again and life is good. You're like, yes, I'm back on track. And something else happened. Maybe your kid gets sick and you have to spend more time running around doing errands, and you put yourself last. You don't get to move your body because you're running around taking care of everyone else. And then you see this cycle continue over and over and over again. So tell me if you can relate to that. Tell me if that's something that you can relate to. One day you bump into a friend and she says hi, and you barely recognize her because she looks so healthy, so vibrant, and completely transformed. And you're talking and you find out she's been this way for a couple of years, and she didn't just go on a diet. She completely transformed her new identity, and she did it like permanently. In your heart of hearts, she's not going back. This isn't a temporary thing. This is how she's living. This is who she is. It's not a temporary fix. It's been like this for a while. And you wonder, how can I do the same? So whether it's a diet, whether it's an exercise habit, whether it's maintaining your calendar, maintaining your work-life balance, or consistently growing your income or finances or career, whatever it is, you can do that too, right? Because sabotage is the same for any of these fields. Like the sabotage process that you go through is going to be the same for any of these things in your life and anything that happens. The good thing is the solution is also the same. Okay? So the solution is also the same. And it really, really is quite simple. And there are 3 steps you need to take in order to create that permanent, lasting change. That's really what we're talking about today. Okay, permanent, lasting change, whether it's the diet, whether it's exercise, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's home life, whether it's finances, relationships, anything else, it's all the same thing. So growing up, I've mentioned this in some of my talks before, but growing up, I saw my mother read book after book after book and try a variety of eating programs. And she was like that woman that would get a great idea. She'd try it and then she'd get confused because she'd hear about the next research that was coming out and there was so much conflicting information. She'd bounce from one thing to another looking for the best options. And she had a good understanding, yet everyone seemed to be telling her different things. And so the more she learned, the more frustrated she'd get. And the more she would step off the wagon into less effective eating habits and less effective movement habits. So there were temporary periods of success with her, but she was never able to lose weight. She maintained the identity and just accepted the fact that she was going to be larger. She's had 4 kids and, she only has so much time. And part of her, I could tell, like a part of her really wanted to do this and a part of her wanted to be healthy and she was really seeking something, but she had so much conditioning from her youth, from so many negative paradigms and a negative belief system about how she could operate in this world, about how she was. People would they weren't always nice to her about her weight. She was never huge as a child, but she was a little bit robust. And so she had her mother telling her things. She had other people telling her things. And all of those prior experiences, they stayed with her like a heavy backpack on her back. And so every time she tried to make progress, even though, yes, she would have some temporary progress, one of these past experiences, one of these negative beliefs, one of these conflicting situations that she had about, I want to get healthy and I don't really believe I can. I believe others can, but I don't believe I can. Oh, well, this person who wrote this book is great, but which person is really right? So she had a lot of conflicts and I would see her. Can you wait 2 minutes, please? Or bring me no, don't bring me the computer. My son's just over there. He's home with me today. Can you watch for a few more minutes and then I'll put it on for you? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I put a show on for him. So he's been so quiet. He's been amazing. So this process with my mom, it just kept going up and down. And what's really cool is a few years ago, we were talking. Okay. We were talking and we had a conversation, and this has been something that had been kind of coming on and off in her life. And I thought it was a good idea. She's like, I really want to release some weight. And I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea. I know you've talked about it, so I'll be a loving daughter and support you and I'll roll with it. I didn't know how serious she was. And this time she really was serious. And instead of looking for the next diet, instead of looking for the next exercise program, she really started to follow these steps in terms of empowering herself. She's followed these steps, and she is still continuing to follow them so that she can create that permanent lasting change. She's been releasing weight consistently for several years, and it's no longer about a diet or exercise program. It's literally about how she shows up in the world, how she feels strong, how she feels empowered. And the truth is, everything you believe in is true, and you have the power to transform your life. You have the power to transform your business. You have the power to really make a difference. And sometimes if you don't know where to start, I want you to start with these 3 steps. You were born with infinite potential, with infinite possibility, and I'm going to give you a formula to follow. Okay? So, first step that you need to do is clear the past. Okay, you got to clear the past. And it's like when you're looking to get a new wardrobe or see an image consultant, if you keep all of the old clothes in your closet, there's going to be no room for anything new. Same thing happens with emotions, and same thing happens with your fridge. If you have a whole bunch of old rotting food in your fridge and you buy new food, you got to get rid of the old stuff, or you may not have room to put the new stuff in. You can't just keep stuffing the fridge. So same thing works with emotions. You need to, when clearing the past, you want to really look at clearing negative emotions. So there are primary negative emotions. This is something that we help people clear in terms of anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, rage, and shame. These are the most negative and most powerful emotions that really grab a hold of us and have a negative impact in so many of our lives. So got to clear the negative emotions. That's first and foremost. We've got limiting decisions that we've made, and many of these decisions have been made in our past, in childhood. They've happened because someone might have told us something at school, or maybe one of our friends made fun of us, and we unconsciously made that decision at an early age before we really had a conscious filtering, could make a better decision. We sometimes have conflicts or incongruencies, or parts of us that part of me wants to do this, part of me wants to do that. And so if we have all these missing parts, they never come together to create that whole. Ultimately, these parts are seeking the same common denominator. And our mind is just so segmented. It's almost like our mind is searching for the answers in different places instead of coming to the core and coming to the center of what it's looking for. And so it's really important to be able to make those parts congruent. And that way you can create a compelling future. When you create the compelling future through clearing the negative emotions, then and the limiting decisions and any parts or incongruencies you've got, you will have a clean slate to move forward with. Okay, so how do you do this? There are a lot of journaling exercises that are out there. You could do part of this consciously. It would take a really, really long time. You've ultimately got to do this at the unconscious level. And there are conscious entry points. You've got to make sure that you do get to the unconscious, because that's where it's going to have the longest and the fastest and most impactful change for the long term. Often, if you're working with a conscious process, then life will happen and get in the way before you get around to changing something or clearing the closet, clearing the baggage, and then you won't get around to finishing it up because you'll get distracted, you'll get thrown off course. So you want to free yourself at the unconscious level because it's the fastest and it's the most effective and most powerful. So a couple of techniques that I've started to work with is a technique called timeline therapy. So there are some techniques in neurolinguistic programming that we use to help with this. The fastest and most comprehensive one that does cover a lot of these things is called timeline therapy, where you literally can manage and emotionally deal with a lot of past negative experiences, past trauma. Many people even have experienced like phobias disappearing after going through this process. And it's been a process that's been used in PTSD to help with that all over the world. So it can work for minor things. It can work for more serious challenges as well. But it allows you to go really obtain the learnings and get what you need to get from that past experience, because everything in your world happens for a reason. And if you don't get what you need from that experience, it's going to linger. It's going to stay like that brick in the backpack until you let it go. However, the difference with timeline therapy over a lot of other therapeutic techniques is you literally don't have to go relive the past, which especially if you've had more negative challenges or negative experiences, you don't want to go dive into that situation and relive your trauma, because that can be even worse, and then it could perpetuate things. So that's one of the beautiful things I love with timeline therapy. And this particular technique is it allows you to clean up emotional past trauma without having to go relive your past and dwell on it for a decade. You can, in one session, clear a lot of emotions and a lot of limiting decisions. Another thing that works really well is a process called hypnosis. So hypnotherapy is also really great. I prefer to use this after some of the initial cleanup is done, just because I've found timeline therapy to work the best. And also really looking at what your victim story is, just writing out your victim story as it is and objectively noticing what it is and being prepared to let it go, stepping into your hero's journey and really getting into that energy, that attitude of gratitude, that love, that joy, and begin living in a beautiful state. because as soon as you start to do that, it's going to make a world of difference. Okay. So step one, clear the past. You got to get rid of those negative emotions, limiting decisions, parts, and incongruencies so you can create that compelling future. Because if you have all these things in your way, you won't be able to see the forest through the trees, and you'll be held. It's almost like you're stuck in a box. Okay. You won't be able to free yourself. Step two. So that's the inside part. Step two is actually taking action. Taking action. Step two, to be able to make a change and make it permanent, you need to actually train your neurology. You need to create new neural pathways in order to build a skill. Often, if you're doing something that's new or that's different, right? If you're creating a change, you've never done it before. And if you've never done it before, then how is it possible, right? How is it possible to be able to move forward with it? So step two is take action, okay? And you've got to actually do the doing. When you're doing something new, you won't be able to feel good about it. You won't be able to move forward. It won't necessarily work, right? Because the thing is, when you're doing something new, you don't have the neurology for it, right? This is why you have to build the neurology for it. And so when you build the neurology, you're going to have to do something 2 to 3 times, actually 2 to 3 separate times successfully in order to install it in your neurology. So you might fail forward a little bit, you might stumble along the way, but that's what's required in order for you to take action and move forward. Okay, so to take action and move forward, you've got to do the doing. You've got to physically do the doing. Now, so often people get caught in doing mode, and they get into action and do without doing any of the clearing, without doing any of the emotional release. And it's almost like putting leaves on top of grass and then expecting new grass to grow in the spring without clearing the excess. You need to clear the excess in order to really create the opportunity for the new things to flourish. And so you got to do the clearing component to be able to create that clean slate to do the doing. You've also got to do the doing. No questions about it. You may not like it. It may be uncomfortable. You've got to take action. And that really includes holding, creating, and enforcing boundaries. So sometimes that might be an uncomfortable thing. So step one was clear the past. Step two was take action. Okay. Step three, focus on what you want. Focus on what you want. Ultimately, your evaluations become suggestions to your unconscious mind. Everything you believe is true. Everything you say is true. And you've got to train your mind to do this. We talked about retraining your mind in last week's episode. We talked about the reticular activation system. And the one way that you really train your reticular activation system to move forward and to grow those neural pathways is by focusing on what you want, focusing on the wins, constantly working towards success instead of focusing on and dwelling on the things that are going wrong. And this is such a key because it's easy to notice the gaps. It's easy to focus on the gaps. The more you focus on the gaps, the worse it's going to be, the less effective it's going to be. So this is a huge, huge component. We do this. There's a process that I've put together called the thought cleanse. And it's basically where you really evaluate your thoughts through the day and rewrite them throughout the day consistently over and over again. Because if it's not in your awareness, you can't change it. And so you've got to focus on what you want. So this is a process that you can shift your reality to exactly what you want it to be in a moment. Auto-suggestion, daily study, reviewing your goal daily, writing. We have some worksheets that we work with. So really effective writing and journaling, not complaining about your problems, but really powerful processes that can tune into your unconscious mind, asking yourself great questions so that you can get great outcomes. These are all ways that you can start focusing on what you want, and you've got to really embed it from the conscious mind to the unconscious mind to be able to install the goal. And so step one, you've got to clear the past. Step two, you've got to take action. Step three, you've got to focus on what you want. And if you could really create the opportunity for permanent lasting change in your life, whether it is in your personal life. Maybe it's in a relationship. Maybe you're not having the kind of relationship that you really dream and desire. Maybe your work is not as fulfilling as it used to be. Obviously, in these times, the work situation has changed. Well, you have the power to adapt to a better situation when you make a choice. So maybe that's not working for you. When you really look at your finances, if your finances aren't working for you, or your health, or even your weight, just like my mom, you've got to go back and take care of this at that deep level. And when you really do that, if you could make that transformation, if you can make that one transformation in your life, there's going to be a lot of transformations you want to make. You might be like, yeah, sign me up for all of them. But if you got the one that's causing you the most challenge, that would be the most powerful and transformative to you, what would that be worth to you? Really think about that. What would that be worth to you? So one of the things that we're doing is, because we realize that the power of the emotional declutter, the emotional cleanup is so, so, so important. We have a process that we're offering, and we're doing a Mother's Day special. It's called the Emotional Cleanup, that actually does involve the timeline therapy and some hypnotherapy and some NLP techniques in order to help you release these negative emotions, release some of your primary limiting decisions that are impacting so many other areas in your life, and also be able to really create that compelling new future that you're looking for. So we clean up any incongruencies and any negative things that are holding you back or keeping you stuck, to allow you to move forward to that brand new, compelling future. So we are going to have more information all over the site tomorrow, and more will be coming later this week. But if this is something that interests you, if you're curious about this, then what I want you to do is direct message us, and we'll be able to get that information to you. We've got it on our back end. New stuff is coming tomorrow. So direct message us, and we would be happy to see if this is a good thing for you, and if this is something that would really help you. But if you're feeling like you want to make some changes, and you're tired of getting in your own way, your emotions are getting erratic, and you want to feel better on the inside out, and also really position yourself for incredible results this spring and summer, then the emotional cleanup is so, so key to that. We'll be doing it one-on-one, so you get tons of attention, and that's that. So emotional cleanup is here. So let us know if it's something you're interested in. Okay. So with that, we are going to wrap, and we hope you have a great day. Bye for now.